we know that there are always is a toxic percentage of any community that's large enough to have a community. And we also know that sometimes fans shouldn't get what they want, because actually when they don't get what they want, they get what they want, because they end up in a better place with things. And also, like, we have to know the realistic expectations of, they make some of these films not for us at times. They make them for other communities of people that they're trying to bring in. Like with Disney and Star Wars, they realize that, listen, you're going to be a Star Wars fan no matter what. They want to bring in the younger generation. They want to attract somebody else. And they realize that. And I think they have to, in some ways, because they can't adapt in real time, they have to adapt over time. And that does sometimes, really alienate the fans that came in a different era to something, because it's no longer what they expect it to be.
All right. Well, welcome everybody back to the Full Battery Media Podcast. I've got an awesome guest with me today. Would you like to? I've been having a hard time with my introductions lately. I don't know why, but what can you do? Would you like to introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do, man?
Yeah, I'm Ben Kvalo, founder and CEO of Midwest Games, a publisher changing the kind of like publishing structures, models, landscape, and thinking about how we support game developers in new ways. I'm also the president of the Wisconsin Games Alliance, which is an advocacy group in the Midwest. I'm also struggling with words. Midwest of the U.S. That runs also the largest games industry event in the U.S. that is outside of California.
That's awesome. Now, coming from the world of gaming, this podcast is all about talking to people who create content of all types. And, as you work with people creating games, what's really unique about working in this area? Just in general, what's really special about working in gaming, man?
Gaming, to me, is like the ultimate entertainment, because you are combining the kinds of experiences that storytelling can give, but being able to interact with a world, an experience, a puzzle in such incredible ways. And with game developers, how talented they are at creating these experiences. There's just nothing like it, which is why it's the largest entertainment industry in the world by far. Like, it's 7 times bigger than the film industry, bigger than films, TV, music combined times 2. And it's because it is such an incredible medium for being able to experience the things you most want to engage with, whether it be that you are on another planet and you actually feel like you're able to build your own colony, bit like or what, maybe some people just want to have some peace and power wash their sidewalks, and they can do that too in a game and not have to go outside and do it.
Yeah. It is interesting too, because when I was a kid, one of the books that I really enjoyed were the Choose Your Own Adventure books. And I remember reading them and it's this wild thing. And I was like, oh, wow, there's multiple endings. And that's one of the things that I always would think about. When you're watching a movie, you're given the story, it is handed to you. But when you're gaming, there are so many different avenues that you can go down. And it truly is like an ultimate form of entertainment, because it's interactive. Yep. The best games, you have different options, you have different ways to go down this path, and that's powerful stuff,
Well, and what's so incredible about the game developers and what they're able to put into their games is they can surprise and delight folks constantly with the smallest little Easter eggs or little things, or even sometimes the errors, the glitches, the things like that become, some of the most talked about or enjoyed moments within a game that become something within the community. And what games really is an ultimate community builder, because
Yes.
you are engaging around something together, even if it's a single player game, because you're experiencing that and you're experiencing it in different ways, and that becomes a talkable moment. And so much of that is just what makes it truly special, because you watch a film, and yeah, there's different angles and things like that. Some of the best films, I think, do that in so many ways, but you still are missing that true engagement piece of things that makes games just, I think, the by far the most special medium.
Yeah. There is really this, like, cultural phenomenon, cultural bridge that you get happening that is so powerful. Like when you have great games that
Mhm.
they extend beyond national boundaries, they extend beyond cultures. You might get some guy in Korea, some guy in Azerbaijan, and some guy in Nigeria that are all jamming to the same game.
Yep.
And they're just like, and there's not, certainly there on some of the community forums, there are people like, hey, you know what, there's some division, but not really, man. Most of the time, people are just happy to be gaming with each other. It
Yeah.
depends on the game, but most of the time, it's pretty chill.
Yeah, every what's awesome is there is a community for everybody. Like,
Yes.
everybody's a gamer. I get that we haven't always had the best accessibility to everybody in the world to be able to game. But that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that not everyone's not a gamer. Everyone is a gamer. It's just, have they been able to experience it? And what's amazing over the last, especially like 5, 10 years, even if you go back to like really the beginning of mobile gaming has become more and more accessible, more ways for folks to be able to engage. And we've seen new kinds of experiences, all the way to like a legacy newspaper brand like New York Times. Like, really, they're the only reason they're still around today is because of Wordle and a
Mm,
game that they put out that people engage with in such a huge way. And it's such a simple experience in some ways, but it's a community experience. And that is just, really something that few things can do. But what I also love is just the fact that you can have a game that is not even a narrative experience, yet the community can create a whole narrative around it and embrace it and own it. And then what's awesome is then the game developer, unlike films or books or so many of these things, the game developer in real time can embrace the community and add those things into the game, so that
yep.
those things become not only a part of like the community and the stories, they can actually be embraced into the community. Or like the community can create things with mods, if a game is moddable, to be able to create the things that they want inside the game as well. So there's so many ways that the creator can engage the community, that it's just much harder to do that in other mediums. And I think that's part of the reason games, especially in today's world where it's so digital, it's so real time, games can live at the speed of the consumer.
I love that. It is true. Like, my daughter is absolutely loves Minecraft,
Yep.
and she is that Gen Alpha, and she loves Minecraft. And one of the things that was interesting is that she catches and she notices every update. Every
Mhm. Yep.
single update, she is in it and she's talking about it and she's like excited for these things and she's like, oh, telling me why they updated it.
Yep.
And it's really it does. It's just changing in real time as they
Mhm.
respond to the community. And it's powerful like that, that you can have um you know when we see that the gaming community, and not all gaming companies do this, but I'm going to make a harsh and stark contrast to film and the
Mhm.
film media, right? Like, let's look at. I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt,
I was just gonna
and
use a Star Wars,
dude,
comparison.
Disney
Yep.
did not listen to the fan base. Like,
Nope.
they were just like, we are going to do what we want to do.
Yep.
And the fans are like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, why, like, I'm going to just blast. I hate what they did to Luke Skywalker in the new trilogy, drinking that alien space milk. And I was just like,
Yeah.
dude, this isn't the Luke Skywalker
Everyone's
I was
gotta get their
hoping for.
space milk, right? Yeah.
Yeah, space milk. But like, versus you get these gaming brands that are like, we hear you, we are listening to you, and we are
Mhm.
doing what will make you guys happy. And they're not hating on the fan base, because that's another thing. Like,
Yep.
oh, these toxic Star Wars fans. No, man, that's just fans. They're just
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
enjoy this,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think it's always a balancing act. Like, I mean, we know that there are always is a toxic percentage of any community that's large enough to
Yes.
have a community. And we also know that sometimes fans shouldn't get what they want, because actually, when they don't get what they want, they get what they want, because they end up in a better place with things. And also, like, we have to know the realistic expectations of, they make some of these films not for us at times. They make them for other communities of people that they're trying to bring in. Like,
Yep.
like with Disney and Star Wars, they realize that, listen, you're going to be a Star Wars fan no matter what. They want to bring in the younger generation. They want to
Yep.
attract somebody else.
Yep.
And they realize that. And I think they have to, in some ways, because they can't adapt in real time, they have to adapt over time.
I like
And
that.
that does sometimes, really alienate the fans that came in a different era to something, because it's no longer what they expect it to be. Whereas I think it's maybe part of it is that in games, you're so engaged in the moment at all times that gradual change. Like, if you look at something, you look at Fortnite, or Minecraft. You look at
Yeah.
Minecraft back when I was playing it, at the beginning of time of Minecraft, and it is so different.
Yeah.
In fact, if I were to dive back in, I would probably be like the Star Wars fan, like the original, where I'm like, oh, where's my, where's the simplicity and I think they do have a good onboarding process and re-onboarding, but still, it's like, it's a different game now.
Yeah.
But it has gradually changed, like from small update to small update to small update to small update, so that the fan base doesn't feel alienated if you were along for the journey, especially the
Yeah.
core fans. And so, in some ways, it's a completely different game, yet they haven't alienated the fan base in doing so, because Minecraft is no longer this small indie game. It's this massive AAA game, as much as people don't recognize that. In fact, it's not even a game anymore. It's a platform.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder if part of it is the how you engage your audience, if it's that steadiness of things, maybe that allows for it to be kind of more easy to digest for a fan base,
Mm.
versus when it's a stark change, 10, 15, 20 years between, like, major updates, essentially. Like, that is jarring, for a fan base.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because the you hit the I enjoyed I love Star Wars, but like, when I tried to show my daughter,
Mhm.
the original trilogy, or even the prequels, she's just like, I don't get this. But
Mhm.
we watched Skeleton Crew together, and she loved it, which was
Yeah.
made for kids. It felt like the
Yep.
Goonies.
Yep. It
You
was
know,
good.
it was Goonies for space at Star Wars, and it was awesome. Now, as games are, but you hit on something that I thought was really interesting, because games seemingly are becoming more like social hangout spaces as well. And it feels like social apps are becoming more like games in a way, with rewarding people
Yeah.
for participating. I mean, TikTok sure as heck makes it feel like it's gamified.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be kind of an intersection between those two someday, between content and gaming?
There already is. Every company in the world needs a gaming strategy. Every company. I don't care if you're Sephora. Like, you need a gaming strategy, because it's how do you engage and retain an audience. And games have proven over and over and over again to be the top retention mechanic, and approach in anything ever. Whether
Mm,
like healthcare should be doing this. Like
right.
financial companies should be doing this.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like so I think the intersection is already kind of there. And what's going to be interesting as the generations, like the average age of a gamer is 41 now. Um, and so that means a lot of folks that are like hardcore into games or grew up into games are now moving into more mid senior executive level roles within different companies. And they have a core understanding of games, game loops in some ways, at least they're familiar with them. And I think that is going to lead to a massive change in how people approach things. And if we look at games and the success of games and why it's grown so much, and also why we're at a kind of struggle moment as an industry, is we've become so good at our craft that a few games have been able to retain their users longer than any entertainment medium has ever retained their users.
Yeah.
In fact, so much so that they've turned into platforms. And you have things like Fortnite or Roblox, where you can create games within the game,
Yeah.
and suddenly it's a walled garden that people don't ever leave. And that
Yeah.
means they're not spending money elsewhere. They're used to getting free content, which lowers the expectation around spend. So like when they look at, a $70, $100 AAA game, they go, why would I do that when I can, spend, perception wise, nothing to go in Fortnite. Now they are spending, they're buying skins, they're doing other things. They end up spending more, statistically, but they don't see it as that because it's not a large upfront payment to be able to get in. There's no gate front. They allow you in, and then they have mini gates behind the things that you really want. And so they're so good at it that people stay in these worlds for incredibly long amounts of time. And these platforms have become, yeah, the centerpiece of socializing, of social media, of
Yeah.
of really everything from the good to the really dark and bad as
Yeah.
well. And that's something that we have to realize, especially on a platform like Roblox. There are
Yeah.
such huge legal issues with that platform that over time will come out, in the wash. But people need to realize some things that happen on these platforms because people use it to hide from authorities,
Yeah.
to really do the things that people used to do on instant messenger, on social media, on all those things. And so, yeah, I completely like agree that all these things are merging, but the centerpiece is games.
Yeah.
And that's what, a lot of folks, especially in older generations, really struggle to understand is you go into a digital world to do some of the things that you used to do in a physical world.
I was I used to teach, and one of the things that, as I was talking to some of my students, and I was teaching this university, and I said, well, what if, we had in a couple of years, kids go to school and inside Roblox, like,
Mhm. Yeah.
an app like that, and you just go to school there. You have your avatar, and you're taking classes at Harvard, you're taking the classes at Yale inside it. I mean, we're already doing online classes. EDX, Coursera have like a platform that like that, but why can't they gamify it? And I love the point, like, I interview so many financial planners. I have a podcast called Growing Money with Sean Trace, and that's like one of my bigger podcasts.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I talk to those people about all the time is that whole field is boring as hell.
Yep.
Like, if you could gamify teaching younger people to invest, gamify and
Yep.
reward them to do, hey, you just filled out your buckets for this month, and now you saved this month. We're going to reward you. And you're like, dude, I got points. Well,
Mhm.
is it points that, like, can you spend it? Well, maybe it's like credit card points, like you gamify it. Like, I mean, credit cards are a great example of having like spending gamified.
Yep.
So, but I want to ask you another question. What makes a game like really catchy and addictive in ways within the first couple minutes of playing? What's a game that hooks you?
Uh, any game can hook you, just like any YouTube video can hook you. If you think about when you need to capture somebody, like how quickly you need to capture somebody, and you can have the most boring game ever. I think like both what you just asked and going back to what your previous point was, like something like Duolingo. That's a
Uh,
game.
Great
That is
point.
a game.
Yeah.
And they know how to capture somebody from the moment you go into Duolingo.
Dude,
Uh,
that little sad, like when the Duolingo thing starts dying on you, I have never felt so guilty in my
yeah,
life. I
they
just killed the Duolingo owl, man.
and all they did was they look at some of the games. It's the words are escaping me right now, but some of the games that were part of like my childhood and growing up, and they learned from those things, and they
Yeah.
they said, okay, well, what if we put it into a different place? What if we put it
Mhm.
into language learning?
Mhm.
And what could that do? How could we engage people in a very, very different way? And so the best games know how to capture that in the moment. They know how to immediately attack it. It's the same thing. It's the same learnings you have like on YouTube, where you need to capture somebody within 3 seconds, and then you have
Yeah.
5 seconds to keep them, essentially. And so if the first thing they see is a logo of some company, they're out. So
Yeah.
you have to immediate. So you look at like mobile ads, and what do? They immediately jump in, and they really are ridiculous, sometimes very sexist ads. And mobile ads are known for how ridiculous they are, but it's because their entire structure is around capturing and retaining. Like
Mhm.
they are games built on just pure spreadsheets. They only care about the numbers. They only like there's a lost morality in many of these. Not all. There's many that do it the right way and figure out how to capture people without extreme things. But oftentimes, especially what I would say is uh, poor business people that aren't that creative. They will do things in kind of unethical ways, but it captures people. Boy, do
Yeah.
those ads, people pay attention to them, and luckily they get called out every once in a while when they're really really bad. But at the same point, it goes just to the core philosophy of like you have to capture them right away. And so when you get someone into a game, you can't have a lot of friction. And this is my problem with AAA these days. And AAA, for those that don't know games, AAA is like the largest, is the blockbuster. It's the Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty,
Mhm.
like the biggest games. And Minecraft now fits in that category because of the audience and size. It's weird to think Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto are in the same category, but those are the mega 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 games. And the problem with many of them is that they've been so big, so successful, they haven't had to take the lessons from the other end of the industry where you have to capture it, you have to do it. So they're losing. Like Call of Duty just released Black Ops 7, and it's the worst release in a long time.
Mm.
And I haven't played it. I don't have the full context, but here's my guess is that they haven't learned those lessons. The onboarding, the structure, everything feels very much traditional Call of Duty, and the audience has shifted where they want immediacy of reward in some way.
Mm.
And I bet that is not delivering upon it in the way that that audience wants.
It's really interesting because, there you have this balancing point between like what you want to be creating and again what the audience
Mhm.
wants. And like going back to Star Wars, like what they want to put out and like what was wanted were two
Yeah,
different things,
yeah,
And like same thing for games. You see that all the time. Like games hit and games miss. And sometimes things flop and sometimes they take off. But
yeah.
there's the ones that are exceptional have that thing, you know what I mean? And I want to ask you about that because this is a kind of a funny question, but it'll make a point. If you could erase a game from your memory just to kind of play it again for the first time, which game would it be and why?
Mm. Erase it from my memory. Well, the good thing about these days is because there's so much going on, most things end up being erased from my memory. Um, so I would say my first run through of a game called RimWorld. So
Okay.
RimWorld is a resource management colony building storytelling simulator, essentially. So, uh, so basically, you crash land on a square map that is
Mm,
top down. There's these little cartoon characters. It doesn't seem like it's like this serious, like brutal game that it is. And you have to learn how to survive. In some ways, it's kind of like Minecraft when you first go through it, where you're learning basics and doing really stupid things out of the gate because you don't yet know how to truly survive. You don't know the core mechanics. You don't know how to balance a lot of things that are going on. And this is just an extreme because you have to build up your survival mechanics while also problem solving risks and opportunities that are constantly happening on this map, 2D map essentially. Um, and it just has so many mechanics that are constantly pushing and pulling you that that the I just remember some of the moments where I learned and realized the greater like world of this game of how to interact with the mechanics the right ways, and some of it was just brutal, like uh the brutality of the moment where like you have to connect the electrical within the house and things like that to make sure that you can power your house that you've just built. And I thought I could just run electrical lines wherever, but no, I ran them outside. It started raining, it sparked, my wood house set on fire and all my people died. And just brutal. But what's really amazing about that game is not is as I went through my full playthrough, and it takes, I would say, 300 hours to get through even just the base game of that, which is crazy, because you're managing essentially a little civilization, and all of these are individuals that have relationships with one another. It's really a crazy game. But then it somehow all the way through the game still has the push and pull where you get
mm,
really good at all these like base level things, like the stuff that you struggled with right away, you become so good at, yet it throws new things at you, all the
yeah,
way to the point where I'm finally have built a spaceship. Like I've learned, like you have to learn like flight and all the mechanics to be able to build this spaceship and get
that's
off
awesome.
planet, and all the mechanics around like oxygen supply and like all of these things that are vital when you get to space. So I'm like, I thought I had everything. I go, okay, we're finally good. We're going to launch. Like this is, the first end game. Of course, mods have come in and built multiple other end games where you can actually explore like different planets and things like that. But I was like, I'm finally there. I go to launch. I get it like does this, mechanic and then shows you in space, and then suddenly alarms everywhere. Like my entire group is dead because I had missed one little thing where it wasn't quite airtight, and everyone's dead. And it was like 300 hours in, and I learned a very valuable lesson around how you got to make sure something is really airtight.
That's wild. That's wild because it's so real. It's like brutally real. And
Yeah.
there was a great Rick and Morty episode where Morty gets stuck in this like reality game, and all of a sudden Morty pops out and he's like, "You made it to 56. It's pretty great there, Morty." And he's like, yeah, and I was just like, "Oh man, that's awesome." And he's like, "Rick, I don't know about that game." And it was pretty rad. But one of the things too is it's like the idea of really having real challenge,
Hmm.
and that if you go back in time, um, we culturally around the world would have more rites of passage. There was a group of people in South America that they make these gloves of bullet ants, and they put this glove on, like Steve-O and one of the other guys that did this TV show
Hmm.
went down there and they did the glove that these guys do, and it caused the guy's hands to swell up for like a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
And different groups of people around the world, someplace they had to go fight lions and things like that. Now, what I'm talking about though is that we live in a very easy society at times. Certainly we all have our challenges, but I feel like on some level, people are craving challenge,
Yeah.
and games can give that in a way that we might not be able to get it in other areas of our lives. You are
Mhm.
doing this endurance mission, and you can take part in something that is meaningful to you. I'm excited to hear that. I hear they're developing a new, massive, uh, massive game for the Lord of the Rings characters, and I
Oh,
was like,
well, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, dude, that would be absolutely something I would play. And just let's go to Mordor. Hey, why not? But my point being is like you can go through and take part in things that you might never have an experience with in real life,
Mhm.
and there's something powerful to that.
Yeah, well, we as especially first world societies have become so good at, like, we don't have to think about really survival as much, and so we create our own challenges, some of it being very unhealthy things
Yeah,
that are just ridiculous, like people, ultimately, like, hoping for, a an Armageddon moment because they just need excitement in their lives, like, type of thing. Like, and people literally are like that. And part of it is that, you when you have something, you don't have to worry about something. And you see it all the time with really rich people where you're like, you're really rich. Why would you go do this stupid thing? It's
like get into
because
a submarine and go to the bottom of the ocean,
they don't have any challenge in life at a certain point.
right?
And it reduces, the excitement of life. The good in life is when you realize you've gone through bad, or you know that there's tough times there, and you overcome and you do that. And so people try to find that in so many different ways, whether it be marathons
Yep.
or games. Games is a great outlet for a lot of that, where you can go and have extremely challenging things that you feel like you really overcame. Like people that play Dark Souls type games, where it's just brutal. And you will die 1,000 times before you succeed. And that's just on the first boss.
Yeah.
And getting better at something and being able to see measurable results. I think that's some of the best games in the world. Really allowing you this loop where you feel like you're getting better. And everyone wants to always, I think everyone, maybe this is a generalization, wants to feel like they're always improving, getting better. Like feeling growth is
Yeah.
like one of the most rewarding things because you're like, whoa, I overcame.
Right.
I am better off of it. And games does such a good job of you feeling the progression in a faster loop in comparison to your real life because it's, growing in real life, it takes years to really see results, working out. Like it takes years. In a game, you can see that loop in such a shorter period and feel the reward of it.
I love that. Yeah, it is because it's like I remember when I was in college, I was playing Diablo all the time, and I love
Mhm.
Diablo.
Mhm.
And one of the things I was, it's like after 24 hours of game time, you've leveled up, and you like I got the mace of unyielding
Yep.
power,
Yep.
whatever you got, and but like I also studied martial arts. And it was years before I got to pick up any type of weapon that was in any way fun. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's like 12, 24 hours, yeah, and just you're this absolute
Yeah.
badass or
Yeah.
something else. Well, let me ask you another question. Do you think the future of gaming is kind of more open worlds, or do you think it's going to be more, small snack size games that you can play in a couple minutes? Where do you think gaming's going to go?
What I love about gaming is it will be everything. You will
Uh,
have you'll have every spectrums that we haven't even imagined yet.
right.
Will be communities of people that engage in such different ways. Like maybe it was predictable, but I don't think the people realize how popular like cozy games, like games that for many gamers you don't see a point to. You're like, wait a second, what are you even doing in this game? You're just like collecting items to just make other items and just kind of be in this space. And there's like casual music and like, but yet those are very much games. Those are very much communities. People love that experience and for
Yeah.
many different reasons too. And then there's subgenres within that. And so
Yeah.
what's really cool is that yeah, some people are going to gravitate towards the mini snackable like types of games. Some people are going to gravitate towards the games that consume them, that they can play with their friends over thousands of hours.
Yeah.
And there is space for every single one of those types of games, and there will be a community for each as well. Now, how big is that community? Is it is it a community that monetizes at high rates or not? Like the ones that do have high monetization rates and do have larger communities will naturally get a lot more investment into those areas, which might mean that those games are way more robust, more competitive, so it creates even better experiences. Whereas the ones that maybe don't have as much money might not get as much attention. But the great thing about games is that it is a hobbyist industry as well as a giant entertainment industry that's a business. So there always is a games that are at a spectrum of like they don't care as much about the commercial success. They're creating small experiences. And the funny thing about it is sometimes those things blow up bigger than the things that are the big
Yeah.
commercial games. And that's what's really cool is there's always this mixing and changing of what where is success coming from, because sometimes it comes from the single developer creating what was a really small experience and it grows into something larger. Minecraft started as a single person
Yeah.
creating, it was a large experience in the scheme of things, but in the same way it also was a pretty narrow experience. You're just a survival with pixelated boxes like, and and all of it works. And
Yeah.
it's ultimately the ones that gravitate towards a larger audience or really engage a community grow in much bigger ways. But it can come from anything from the 1,000-person developer to the one-person developer, and both can engage giant audiences. And that's what's really unique. It's hard to do that. Like a single filmmaker,
Yeah.
like that's hard. A single like musician, like there really isn't that. there's always
Right.
so much more behind it that people don't see, even if
Yeah,
there's a perception that it's that one person.
so true. Where can people find out more about who you are and what you're doing?
They can follow me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of content on LinkedIn. I share share my voice, a lot of my thoughts around different things, different, what's happening in industry, what's happening in tech, what's, company culture, a lot of that kind of stuff. But then midwestgames.com, from a company perspective, we're doing a lot around challenging traditional publishing models and thinking about how do we better serve developers and provide more options to them compared to just the one way of doing things that the industry's done for a long period of time. So those two places are often the best places. We also have a couple games coming out on Steam, our own games, and then also we're partnering with a ton of other games that we're supporting. One of the games that we're putting out is a game called Tomb Water, which is a 2D Souls-like Western, kind of like Zelda-like, if you remember, like classic Zelda. Um,
Yeah,
uh, it's incredible game from a two-person studio in Columbus, Ohio. They have a masterpiece, I think, an award-winning type game. Really excited about that. That will come out next year. So there's a demo out for that, and then the other one is the Legend of Babu, which is a 3D Zelda-like kind of adventure game from a studio in Turkey that we're supporting. So we support studios all over the world, and we just see incredible games and incredible talent all around. So definitely check out those ones, but you can see more on our website, and then I post a lot about it on LinkedIn.